is not your typical target. Iran is a country that has been preparing for the eventuality. And in many ways, the Israelis and the Americans underestimated. They thought they would do a Maduro-like thing. But that, of course, has not happened. They then made the assumption that once you hit the head, that is the elimination of Ayatollah Khamenei, then there would be confusion within the ranks of the leadership in Iran. Little did they know that the leadership in Iran is a leadership that is very well coordinated. You eliminate one tier and they go into the second and to the third and into the fourth tier. And when one listens to the Iranians, even those who are on the borderline are now saying this is a matter of national pride. And if one ever doubted that, the conduct of their football team that had gone to Australia, which in ordinary circumstances perhaps would have accepted to get into exile, they all said, we are going back home because this is a matter of national pride. It is the Israelis and the Americans who said that the Iranians did not have the capacity to use ballistic missiles with a range beyond 2,000 kilometers. They are now making the claim that they can get to Diego Garcia, they can get to the continent of Africa and Europe, and they did not for 1 minute imagine that the Strait of Hormuz would be closed. This was a war of aggression without justification by the Americans, and at a time when they were attacking the Iranians, there were ongoing negotiations which were being mediated by the Omanis, and they simply attacked Iran. And now, when you hear or we hear President Trump saying, we want to negotiate, the Iranians are asking, is this not a case where they want us to be lulled into a false sense of security? Is this not a case where they want to use the ceasefire that they are asking for to mobilize their troops, to ensure that they have sufficient munitions in our neighborhood, to ensure that they have now enough troops to get into the Hormuz and occupy the Karg Island and decimate our strategic reserves or even destroy our strategic reserves? Is this not a precursor to an even worse situation? They allege that the problem was that the Iranians were about to develop a nuclear device. They bombed Iran, and they made the claim that they had decimated the entire nuclear program in Iran. If that had happened, what is the justification for this war? The Iranians were very clear. If you attack our facilities at the Karg Island and our military and non-military facilities and storage facilities, whether it's gas or oil, we are going to be in a doomsday scenario. It's already in the public domain that the Americans are moving some of their elite marine forces into the Hormuz. And that I'm told the plan is to have an actual landing on the Karg Island. And the Iranians are saying, we are waiting for you. We are waiting for you, which means they are saying there will be a bloodbath if you attempt to do that. But if the 5 days yield nothing, my suspicion is that the conflagration will be of a kind that we have not seen in the last few weeks. Remember that the Netanyahu administration have said, even as we wait for the 5 weeks to expire, we are continuing with our activities. And indeed they are. They are bombarding Tehran. They are bombarding different areas in Tehran. They are now going into the infrastructure. They are going into bridges and other installations. So I think the appetite on the part of the Israelis to continue the war is much greater than the Americans. When one analyzes the situation, one sees two scenarios. Number one, that the Americans thought it would be a short, sharp operation. They're already getting fatigued, and they want a decent way out. On the other hand, the Israelis are saying, we are going to continue with this thing until we destroy the Iranian administration and until, as one of them once said, bomb it into the dark ages. When there is a real threat to the Israelis, knowing as we do, although they have never declared it, that they have some limited nuclear capacity, one fears that one may resort to those methods, if only to end the war. I call it the Hiroshima-Nagasaki approach, so that you shock and awe, and then in that scenario, you then bring in negotiations and total surrender because you have created a scenario that is never contemplated. And let us watch very keenly how Israel behaves and how the United States of America behaves. And the reason why I say that is this. Remember, the United States said that the attack on the gas storage facility in Iran was undertaken without their knowledge and consent. The Israelis, on the other hand, are saying, but we consulted on all issues. So it is not clear as to the instances when the Israelis consult the Americans and when they don't. And this must be understood in the context of the current administration in Israel, which believes that this is the greatest opportunity ever in the history of Israel to completely destroy Iran. Destroy Iran that it may never rise again. That is the philosophy. And they think that they are on the path to achieving that. And I think that it's going to be very difficult for the Americans to persuade the Israelis to stop. One of the declared intentions of this war is regime change. Who do you want to bring in? Somebody that is friendly to the United States of America so that you are able to deal with that particular administration in a manner that is beneficial to the United States of America. So, in my view, it is the possibility that the Americans are looking at this issue on a long-term basis as defined, number one, by economy, the oil and gas economy. Number two, they are looking at it even from a strategic military basis, that if you have a friendly regime in Tehran, then in terms of control of that area militarily, because you have bases or military installations in Saudi Arabia, you have them in Kuwait, you have them in Qatar, you have them in Bahrain, you have them in the United Arab Emirates. If you have a friendly regime, then you will have one in Iran, and in that way you neutralize not only Russia, but you also neutralize China. And remember, there is some kind of cozy relationship between India and Israel, manifested by the recent visit of Prime Minister Modi to Tel Aviv. Once you do that, you are also beginning to deconstruct BRICS. Remember, BRICS is Brazil, is Russia, is India, and China, and then you can bring in South Africa. And it is not lost on me that the Trump administration is on the case of South Africa. It is on the case of Brazil, is trying to woo India, it is on the case of Russia, and it is very cleverly on the case of China, even when they are trying to negotiate. So I think that it is right to say that the Americans may be in this war operation.
Ilikuwa? Mahindi. Folia. Na dawa ya baridi.
Maybe in this war operation for purposes of protecting their interests, and the Israelis also have their interests. So there is a confluence of interests. You do your bidding. We do our bidding. It is our opportunity to eliminate this country which calls us the Zionist entity. Remember, the Tehran administration does not call Israel, Israel. They call them the Zionist entity. This country that has said that we should not exist on the face of this earth, we are the ones who are going to make it cease to exist on the face of this earth. And if we don't, we'll install a puppet administration there to do our very bidding, as we have done in Venezuela. And I relate it back to the speech delivered by Marco Rubio in Germany during the Munich security meeting in the month of February 2026. He called the Western world. We must protect our civilization. And it is not lost on me, for example, that in the continent of Africa, if you want to see geostrategically, there are no less than 40 military bases that are controlled by America and the Western world. It is a new scramble for the world, and Iran is an important piece in this jigsaw puzzle. Americans and the Israelis, having had their noses bloodied in a manner that they had never imagined, now think that the quickest way to bring this war to an end is to bring in the Europeans. And this is a perfect scenario for false flagging. And there are commentators out there, whether they are right or wrong, I do not know, who are suggesting that it is actually the Israelis who shot the missile towards Diego Garcia, and that it was a deliberate attempt to make their case to the Europeans that, you see, if you don't do anything and if you don't help us destroy the Iranians, they have the ballistic capacity to hit London, to hit Paris, to hit Madrid, to hit Lisbon, to hit Bonn, to hit Copenhagen, to hit Stockholm. Therefore, come and help us before it is too late. I think it is a case where the truth is being stretched. If they succeed in getting the Europeans, at least some of them, into the Gulf of Hormuz, then this will become a war that will not be concluded in the manner that they would. As somebody has rightly said, it is going to become an international guerrilla warfare that you may destroy, you may even send boots on the ground in Iran, but you will be in a quagmire worse than Afghanistan, a quagmire worse than Vietnam, a quagmire worse than Iraq, a quagmire that you've never seen before. There are so many moving parts that just one false touch of a button can make things spiral out of their orbit. And when they do, then who knows what will happen. We could very well be mourning the death of common sense and writing its obituary at once. In fact, when I listen to commentators on